a man rescued after he found himself trapped in quicksand while he was hiking solo at Arches National Park. Fox 13's Chris Reed has that story.
If you grew up watching cartoons like Scooby-Doo and Bugs Bunny, you probably ended up with an ingrained fear of walking along a trail like this and ending up in quicksand. But for one person in Arches National Park, that cartoon fear became a reality.
Before this trip, I honestly thought quicksand was more of a folklore or a legend.
Austin Dirks is not a novice hiker.
I've hiked thousands of miles through the desert.
But none like the one he was hiking in Courthouse Wash at Arches National Park on Sunday.
It was my left leg that went through first. I was able to pull it out, and then I shifted all my weight to my right foot, and I sunk up to the knee. But it felt like I had stepped into concrete, and then it hardened around my leg. I couldn't even move it a millimeter.
He was thinking hypothermia was set in.
It's cold at night, and to spend it in cold water for a long period of time, that has serious consequences.
Scott Sully with Grand Canyon Search and Rescue says quicksand rescues are extremely rare. But he says what's not rare are all the times they have to go rescue hikers for any reason. There's one other quicksand rescue he knows of, a woman getting stuck for 13 hours in July 2014 on the same trail. For Dirks, it was a 2-hour ordeal stuck in a 45-degree angle he compares to bending forward in a ski boot. But he says he was prepared with a GPS satellite messenger that was able to reach authorities with his exact location. He says the time after that message was sent was the scariest until he saw that search and rescue drone. Sully says having a way for people to locate you is one way to prepare for quicksand and for any hiking emergency, as long as you don't panic and stay put.
We would really rather just, if you need to call 911, hit the SOS button on your satellite device if you have it, because that will tell us exactly where you're at.
Sully and Dirk say because it's rare, there isn't any good advice to avoid quicksand catastrophes. But you should be aware of the possibility if you're going into an area where the ground looks like it has moisture. The best advice is carry the essentials and make sure someone knows where you are. Dirk says he's thankful for both his locator and his rescuers.
I realize that's the closest I've ever come to dying. I mean, I literally owe my life to them.
From St. George, Chris Reed, Fox 13 News, Utah.
And we are joined live now by that reporter, Chris Reed from Fox 13 in Utah. Thanks for being here.
A pleasure, Shauna.
So that was a very interesting story. I mean, I don't know about you, but most people in our newsroom, at least, they were saying quicksand is something you really only see in cartoons. We don't hear a lot about people actually experiencing it in real life. Is this something you see a lot around your area in Utah?
Well, thankfully, and yes, we all grew up with the cartoons of, it was like the main weapon for some people to use quicksand, but thankfully, it's not a common occurrence. This, in fact, was only the second time, probably in the last 5 or 6 years, in Arches specifically. But you will experience it. I, myself, covering a story in Zion National Park, stepped in quicksand. Now, in my case, it wasn't too deep. I was able to get my leg out of it right away. But the thing is, in the cartoons, it looks like literally sand, or the Princess Bride. They sink right down the sand. What it is in reality, it should be called quick mud, because it's almost like those non-Newtonian materials. It looks more like, just kind of like a flat, muddy, and you can see in the drone video that was taken by the search and rescue team that it's very deceiving. You might not even be able to see when you step upon it. But in rare circumstances, and it's only happened in our recollection probably 3 or 4 times where search and rescue teams, it was so deep that people had to come out and rescue.
And you were saying that you've had your own experience with quicksand. One of those rare occurrences actually happened to you. So tell us what your interaction with the quicksand, what was going through your mind? When did you realize it was quicksand?
Yeah, I had heard about it, and it's one of those, because it is a rare thing. And number two, and the other thing is it doesn't rain often down here. So it has to accompany a recent rainstorm. But you just step in it and you kind of like, I had the feeling like it went down to probably like just the top of the soles of my shoes, like my soles were basically in there. And it's a feeling of, in my case, of, it's like, okay, this I can't move my left foot, but let me just give a little force and I'm out of it. And it looks like almost like slightly wet sand if you ever go to a beach and, it just dries out. So um, most of the time, it's certainly something you don't panic about. They tell you just, stand still, don't force anything. But it is a weird experience, I have to say.
And that don't panic, of course, is easier said than done. That's the one biggest piece of advice that we hear with Quicksand. What else did you hear when you were speaking to the rescuers about what people should be aware of?
A big thing there are, when it comes to tips, because it's a rare occurrence, it's not like people should be on the lookout for quicksand all the time. Though, as I mentioned in the report, if it's a wet area, you might want to at least think about it. But the advice that they really give goes to any hiker, whether here in southern Utah, over in the Appalachians, anywhere in the country, which is that you just need, number one, if you're not going to hike with somebody, it's good to hike with somebody. Let somebody know. Let somebody know where you're going to be and have a way for people to locate you, even if it's just a little satellite thing on your phone. And a lot of mobile phones now, at least here, you'll see SOS come up and you're able to at least text by satellite. And that's a recent, actually, phenomenon.
Yeah, and that's important for anybody who's going on a solo hike. You always want to let people know where you are, have ways to communicate. The hiker in this case, in your story, was really experienced. So you're never too experienced to run into something. So always take those precautions, right?
Absolutely. And yeah, so don't think you're old just because you're experienced. In fact, pretty much every occurrence that we've heard about in the last 3 years has been an experienced hiker. It's not something you can even necessarily see. It's just, but what it comes down to is, especially the search and rescue people always say, make sure that even in a case, certainly in the Zion National Park, for example, there are places where you just can't get any phone signal, but an SOS saying that you reach a satellite. So the best thing of all is let people know where you're hiking and how long you think it'll be. And basically, if you're overdue, that's time for them to call somebody and let them know I haven't heard from so-and-so.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris, for that input. We do need to cut you off. We see President Trump arriving, and now